Yo, here we go, on a roll. People have been asking me, and I know that I say this all the time, but why am I doing Florida LitCon, right? Why am I holding this event with writers and filmmakers and illustrators and game designers? Because I'm a ultra fan. Yo, don't think that I'm not a fan, yo. I play video games. I read comics. I read books. I write books. I go to the movies all the time. Yo, this entertainment stuff is in me, and I really get into the story. It's kind of nothing. Maybe it's simple games like Pac-Man and Defender. Those simple games are games that I could get into that didn't have a story. But even those games, it was a bunch of stupid games that were easy to play, that if they had different characters, had a different objective, it wouldn't get my interest. So, what's the one where you jumping on the kangaroo, not the ostrich, from one to one, and I forgot, like Frogger, some of those games, it was even the intricacy of the gameplay really wasn't getting me, because there was a lot of dumb games in the 80s and the early 90s in the arcade era. There was a lot of dumb games. There's a lot of dumb games now. They don't have good stories. So story is still important. Now, I'm looking at, I love Halo. I love, I'm getting into this God of War, which I haven't really checked out yet, but the main thing I'm interested in is the story. I like Assassin's Creed. I like the worlds that they build. They construct them really cool. They make me want to go out and get an Assassin's Creed book. I have 3 Assassin's Creed books, and I even got the comic book. It wasn't the characters that I wanted, but it was still Assassin's Creed, and I enjoyed the movie. It was all right. It could have been better, but it was a good way to explain the whole thing. So anyway, that said, I'm a fan of all of this stuff, right? I'm a fan of stories in multiple mediums, and I've gone to comic book conventions. My films screened. Holla If I Kill You, I screened it at a comic book convention in downtown Hollywood, I think in 2003, 2004. This guy Mike and this guy Rob came together to do a comic book convention. And I met a guy there who had this comic book called Bubba the Redneck Werewolf. And it was right on Hollywood Beach. Now, Mike, 15 years later, he's got a comic book convention called Florida SuperCon that has over 60,000 people coming to it, okay? The other guy, Rob, he's 15 years later. He has 2 conventions called Spooky Empire in Florida, and both of those are bringing in top horror people, okay? And he may get 20,000. It doesn't matter. He's still getting enough to just do those conventions each year and be living, That gave me a introduction to the connection between a lot of these things. My film was in a horror convention. The horror convention gave birth to a comic book convention. Now I'm writing science fiction. I'm going to hardcore science fiction conventions. When I say hardcore, I might be one of 5 black people there, and everybody else has got walkers and gray hair, okay? That's a real comic book science fiction convention, right? Then I'm going to black science fiction conventions, and I'm meeting up with my peoples all over the country, not just, certain parts, but all over the country, right? And then I'm still going to film festivals. And I even went to a gaming convention, which those are new. So it's not like they've been doing it for 15 years. Anyway, I'm seeing, especially the black comic cons, I'm seeing nothing but comic book people, right? When I go to the black film festivals, same city, nothing but filmmakers. And the filmmakers are talking about comic book movies, right? And then I go to the Sci-Fi Writer Con. Same city, nothing but writers and game developers sprinkled in throughout, between the comic book conventions and sometimes the writer conventions. But they don't really have their own, so they merge between the two. But my frustration is that I'm telling the filmmakers about the good books that are out here, the good stories. Some of these filmmakers are good filmmakers. Quality, sound is on point. The visuals is on point. The actors are on point. But the story, they try to write it themselves, and they're not writers. I'm not going to say you can't do it all and do different things, but, you have to learn these other disciplines. You understand what I'm saying? So if you've spent time going to school for filmmaking, then own the fact that you didn't go to school for writing and get a writer. Now, a lot of writers, they all want their books to go to film. You understand what I'm saying? And they can't meet their people. So they sitting around, we go to the science fiction convention, science fiction writing conventions, oh, Hollywood this, oh, Hollywood that, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, 5 blocks away, the next weekend, they've got a film festival, and they go with books in the back of their head. They don't go with them in hand. They don't go to set up a table. Any of that. We need to merge these things. How are these people going to find you? Not only that, I've even seen Essence bestsellers. I met my first editor at a black film festival. She edited my first book, an Essence bestseller, went to a film festival as a participant. Didn't have her books, didn't have anything. I said, wait a minute. I saw a few other authors at film festivals, and, they've had maybe a copy of their book in their purse, maybe a bookmarker, but nowhere were they saying, here, take my book. Here, what you think about this? Go back. If you're looking for a story, here's my, information. So it really wasn't there. And comic book people pretty much are the same. Our black comic cons are really good, but they're a lot more comic book than they are any other medium. As a sci-fi writer, I have one comic book that just came out, and I've had comic books before, but nothing really stayed in print, and my stuff was really earlier before digital comics really took off, and I got caught up in the printing prices. But even with these comic book conventions, we got some big comic book conventions, and they say, oh, sorry, you're a sci-fi writer, we only have comic book people there. So we even section off even our comic book conventions. And the opportunities to take somebody's well-written book to a comic book or write a novelization of the comic book. A lot of comic books, just like film, they get caught in costs. You got to do Kickstarters to raise money, to cover the illustrations, to cover the printing costs. All of that takes money. But yet, the fans would love to see a story of that. To love to read about it. I love the Brother Man comic book series, and, it took years to get a Brother Man spin-off novel, and I think that could have really happened. The other one, Watson and Holmes, all of these, really good comic books, independent comic books per se, do not merge genres. And sometimes, with a writer, they don't mind write. I know a lot of writers have a lot of books to write, and I have a lot of books to write myself. But if we talked about a licensing agreement and I got a good handle of your character, I don't think it's impossible to come up to an independent writer and say, this is my license, 20% you give me, or 10%, something like that of the proceeds. It's really hard because, a lot of independent books don't make profit right away. You figure out how you chart it, but that's possible. And now you can get a novel to somebody else's character, and the brand gets larger. You know what I'm saying? And you give it to the person whose comic book it is or film it is at a wholesale price or $1 on the book. You know what I'm saying? So instead of them paying, so you still make money on a book that you wrote, published, and did all of it. You can collaborate on the cover. There's a lot of things that you can do together. So I know this is rambling. I know this is like all over the place, but some of those reasons are examples are the reasons why I'm doing this Florida LitCon thing. I'm not doing it for Jeff only, right? I'm doing it because part of me is a fan. So part of me will embrace other people's success because I'm going to go to the movies, right? I'm going to read their books. I already read other people's books. So part of me is doing it for a fan. Don't get it twisted. You know, of course, and the other part of me is I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I would love to do a comic book. I just don't illustrate. So yeah, maybe I can meet people myself. But, you know, the main thing is to do it for the whole community, for all of us. And that's what I'm doing it for, because I see people with projects and potential collaborations and missing pieces. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm doing this convention, and I'm getting good responses. So it's not a begging cry. It's really just an explanation, because I know after this year, people are going to come back and say, yo, are you doing it again next year? I'm already getting people that would like to do it at other events. You know, I posted an article, and I'm going to end with this. Oh, no, I got a couple of minutes, but I'm going to end with this. I posted an article on Florida LitCon page, and you should really follow that because I'm staying on subject with the things that I post. But I posted the story of Brother Man Comics, right? Brother Man, and I don't even know if I even bought Brother Man. It was so long ago that I might have lost a copy if I did buy it. But I got them now, so I went and ordered sometime. I got it a little while ago. But take somebody like Brother Man Comics, right? Brother Man came out in 1990. There was comic book conventions. There was comic book stores. I don't even know if there was big ones, because I don't even know if Comic-Con is that old. But there were comic book conventions. But he didn't go to comic book conventions. We know there were writer conventions. We know there were sci-fi book conventions. We know all of that. But guess where he went? He went to a black expo. There's nowhere in there does that expo say film. Nowhere in there does that expo say games. Nowhere in there does that expo say novels, or there's a mosquito in there on set, right? Nowhere in there does it say any of that. But what it did say was black. And he knew black people would get into his story, right? Brother Man. That's like brother, you know, we say, yo, my brother, all right? So that's how he got in. And guess what? It sold over 100,000 copies, and it continued to sell. He came back the following year. So what I'm saying is, sure, people, we can sit at our conventions and staying in our lanes and expect people to come to us, but sometimes we got to bring the party to them. So if we're filmmakers, sure, if you want a good story, keep writing it yourself, try. But yo, book fairs are where people make money off writing their stories. There's no actor that can save a book. There's no film CGI that can save a book. If you can't write, you're not going to get to the second, third, fourth book, and you're not going to get to 5 stars on Amazon. Okay, it's just not going to happen. So if you're an illustrator, you would like to get your comic book out there, and oh yeah, I would love to make it a movie one day, and all you go to are comic book conventions. Come on, dude. My sister, are you serious? If you're an author and all you do is go to book fairs and comic book conventions, but you want to turn your book into a film, are you serious? That's really all the places you go? That's the only people you've told about it? Come on, you got to get past the slush pile. And I know we love social media, and I know it's good to submit things online, but I'm an older person. I'm old-fashioned, so I like meeting people in person. And if I could say to somebody, hey, boom, check this out, I think it means a lot more. And, you know, and maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe because I'm black that I feel that way. But, yo, check it out. That's another angle of why I'm doing Florida Lit Con, is really as a fan and as a professional. I think we need this as an entertainment medium, you know, film, comics, games, novels. Let's do it. It's all in. So I'll see you there. Hit me up. Tell me what you think about this blog.